patterned body, a little gold face, set seriously towards the future, wavered on the screen. My skin tingled. I willed Mrs. Williams to forget to advance the film this time. When the recording beeped, however, Mrs. Williams pressed the button. The projector hummed. The film strip shuddered forward. No matter. The golden face was fixed now in my mind. Tutankhamun. 10 years old and miserable, I had never seen anything so splendid and surreal. I had to know more about this Tutankhamun and his tomb in the Valley of the Kings, not knowing, not able even to imagine how it would change my life. Tutankhamun, at 10 years old, had a better idea of where his life was heading. Born a prince, perhaps he grew up knowing that he might be king of Egypt one day, even if becoming king at 9 or 10 years old was premature. One thing he could not have known was that he did not have long to live, nor could he have imagined that death and a quickly finished burial would take him from his world into ours. It's difficult now to imagine the past century without Tutankhamun and the discovery of that time capsule tomb. Had Howard Carter's crew of Egyptian archaeologists been less thorough and overlooked the rock-cut stairwell to the jam-packed set of 4 small rooms back in November 1922, history would have overlooked Tutankhamun. Instead, this long-lost king, buried before he was out of his teens, found more fame and influence in the 20th century than he had ever known in his own lifetime. Without this little-known ruler, Howard Carter, a self-taught and temperamental British archaeologist, might have died of failure, not a heroic household name. His sponsor, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, might have died of old age instead of an infected mosquito bite in his Cairo hotel room. There would have been no media frenzy of Tootmania and mummy curses to kickstart the Jazz Age, and no surge of corresponding pride in the newly independent nation-state of Egypt, where Tutankhamun was a ready-made symbol of the country's longed-for resurrection. From the moment the beds and boxes and burial trappings in his tomb reversed their journey up those stairs, Tutankhamun began to shape the politics of the Middle East and the global popularity of ancient Egypt like no other archaeological find before or since. The modern world would never be the same, not only for the events that surrounded the 1920s discovery of the tomb, but also because that proved to be only the pharaoh's first rebirth. A Tutankhamun revival in the early 1960s helped the United Nations cultural arm, UNESCO, keep the temples of Nubia from disappearing beneath the backed-up waters of the Aswan High Dam, as the ancient source of the pharaoh's gold, the Nub of Nubia, was sacrificed to hydroelectric power. In his second career as a cultural ambassador, Tutankhamun, or at least a selection of objects from his tomb, toured the United States and Canada to draw attention to the Nubian temple's plight, then travelled to Japan to raise the funds that saw the rock-hewn sanctuaries of Abu Simbel winched to higher ground. The miniature coffin that had dazzled me on screen once gazed up in golden calm at Jacqueline Kennedy, who opened the first Tutankhamun Treasures exhibition at the National Gallery of Art in Washington in November 1961. It was the gilded start of the Kennedy presidency, when hopes for a fairer society and American leadership were high, and culture was the kindest weapon the Cold War had at its disposal. By the 1970s, when I was born, hopes had lowered, and culture had been sharpened to a point. As the Middle East peace process and free market economies entangled Egypt with America, Tutankhamun did the diplomatic work of presenting his homeland as a friendly face and worthy ally. Every American should know more about Egypt and the Middle East, declared a catalogue of educational media published by the United States Office of Education in 1977. Film strips like those we watched in my small-town school were part of a concerted effort to educate Americans about the region and cultivate a positive attitude towards Egypt and the Arab world, the source of the oil on which the American way of life depended. A new tour of Tutankhamun's treasures in the late 1970s had a similar effect. Mrs. Williams had been to see it, returning to Ohio.